Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Thanks for jumping on. On this channel, we are going to talk about cryptocurrency and the new financial system. On today's episode, we are going to hear from digital asset investor. We're going to hear from Chad Steingraber, and we're going to hear from Jack the Rippler on crypto and the new financial system news. Before we jump into the news, let's take a look at pricing. Bitcoin hanging at 62,946. Pretty much flat. Ethereum is at 2,534, the first time it's been over 2,500 in a little while, up 3.78%. Solana on fire at 148, up 5.15% in the last 24 hours. And XRP hanging on at 58 cents. So good to see. We are either neutral or positive in the world of crypto here. Let's move on to some news in the world of X as it relates to cryptocurrency. Here is a post from Digital Asset Investor. This is Lynette Zhang, her name is. She is an expert economist, financial advisor, is very much into gold and silver and other metals. And she is very well versed in this space. So let's take a listen to Lynette here.
In terms of the currency, does this mean we go to a commodity-backed currency? Does this mean we go to some kind of reintroduction of the gold standard? I mean, as we've discussed on this show before, there's some speculation that the BRICS are trying to come up with some common currency backed by commodities. When we see this collapse, or does this then usher in some universal central bank digital currency? Like, what happens when the faith is lost?
Well, when the faith is lost, history shows us 100% of the time, and I don't think this time will be different, that they will come in and they will bring gold as a backing of the currency. Not 100% backed, but a percentage backed. It's why I'm watching Zimbabwe so closely with their ZIG, Zimbabwe Gold, that is presumably partially backed by gold, and then foreign currencies, which I think are the dollar. It's really hard to ferret out all that information because they're not really forthcoming with it. But they're having trouble adopting it because it's non-convertible. So they can say anything. But yes, and when you talk about a universal currency, the IMF and their currency, which is a basket of currencies, and there's no limitations, they can put every single currency in that basket. They've been working very, very diligently on creating that universal currency. And so I think, and even when you're talking about the BRICS countries are voraciously accumulating gold. The Western countries like the US and the other advanced economies, not accumulating so much. But those that are part of the BRICS nation, yes, they are. And there are a number of countries that are repatriating their gold, because if you don't hold it, you don't own it, and they know it. So they're calling in their gold so that it's close to home and they have full access to it. And the one that probably makes me the most nervous is Saudi Arabia. And I say that because they're the ones that have supported a petrodollar, even though that hasn't been kind of fully accurate, but they became a member of the BRICS. They are repatriating their gold. They are growing the gold that they have in deep storage, and they are distancing themselves to a degree from the U.S.
But let's move on to Coach JV here. and see what he has to say. Let me get to the spot. Coach JV is terrific. He's been in this space for a long time.
Very different. If Trump gets elected or Kamala Harris gets elected, it's going to be a very different feel. It's going to be a very different look. It's going to be a very different way to navigate these markets. But cryptocurrency is still here to stay. The banking system, AI, cannot operate without cryptocurrency, without blockchain. It's just going to look very different. One is going to be more super centralized. One is going to work to bring the public and private sector together. But remember, who is actually running the system? The biggest banks in the world, okay? So we got to understand, pull yourself to a 30,000 foot overview. Just watch what the big money's doing. Just watch BlackRock, Vanguard. What are they doing? They're going to a flight to quality, Bitcoin, right? You think about that for just a moment. People say, oh, Bitcoin's going to say, why would BlackRock, the largest asset manager in the world, go all in on Bitcoin? They have to know something. So I digress. Ripple co-founder leads 10 million raise for decentralized clearing. Chris Larson contributed to Yellow Network, aims to tackle liquidity. Write down the word liquidity and understand what the markets are in right now, which is a liquidity crisis. We have a damned up money system. There's too much debt in the system. There's more debt than there is income. And the bond market's inverted about 27 months ago. They're re-inverting right now, and they're lowering interest rates and turning the printing machine back on. At some point, the bubble has to pop. We need money to move. We need it to be liquid. We need it to be fluid. The money's getting dammed up and getting stuck in these areas, so we're robbing Peter to pay Paul back and forth. So write down liquidity and decentralization. So this may be elementary for some people watching this, but I think it's important for us to continue to understand what decentralization is.
So we're going to stop it there. Great stuff from Coach JV. And again, that's been talked about a lot, liquidity as it relates to the XRPL and the token XRP. And the price as it relates to XRP is that it really just needs the proper liquidity to move up. So we'll see what happens, but it looks like we're headed in that direction. Let's move on to Real Vision, and this is Raoul Paul, who's become famous for saying, here he says, this is his channel, it says it's going up. It's as simple as that. Everything else is just fucking noise. So he's famous for saying, just don't fuck up the bull run. Let's give a listen to a short video clip here by Raoul.
Again, don't fuck this up. Just be careful. Just buy, hold, have a long-term time horizon, and learn how to take pain. And when there is pain, you buy more. Unless something changes the thesis that suddenly we're all going to turn into Neanderthals and nobody's going to use technology ever again, it is going up. It's as simple as that. And unless something changes that we're not breaking the financial system and that the internet has disappeared, we will go to blockchain technology. It's as simple as that. That's all you need to know. Everything else is just fucking noise.
Love it. Love Raoul's energy and his vision. I think he's right. Like we're not going to go backwards as far as technology goes. Our new financial system will be on the blockchain. There's going to be winners. There's going to be losers. You have to determine through your own research who that may be if you're investing, and obviously try to choose the right ones. Hopefully this channel will help you in that direction, but I'm just sharing information that's out there that I'm seeing and listening to. Let's listen to Mr. Mann here, who says, quote, what will this digital landscape look like in 10 years with virtual currencies have replaced legal tender or exist alongside them? We'll have many banks operating similar to Ripple, if not by Ripple themselves powering many of these banks. Let's take a listen to this clip from Mr. Mann.
That means a regulation basically in the interest of the consumer. Since we're fortunate enough to have a representative of Ripple also, Karen Gifford, she spoke yesterday, but just wanted to introduce you briefly. She's the Chief Compliance of Ripple. I wanted to know what your views on the same question were, regulated or not regulated, and which bits are to be regulated.
Do you hear me? Yes. My background, as you know, Jean-Louis, is as a former regulator. I worked at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York for quite some time, and my intuition and instincts are that anything that is fundamental to exchange needs to exist in a framework of laws and regulations. So I see regulation as inevitable and a good thing. I also think that from my current perspective of somebody who's at a company that uses a technology that contains a virtual asset, there are many, many benefits to regulation. If there are clear rules, there are so many practical decisions that come from knowing what the rules are. And in an environment of great uncertainty, which is where we find ourselves now, it's very hard to make certain very practical business decisions. So the advent of regulation it seems to me to be a very positive.
So there seems to be a consensus that the community as such is advocating in favor of regulation, which is quite in contrast to what we hear from banks these days, because they're complaining about too much regulation. And taking up on the question there, where will we be in 10 years' time? Will virtual currencies have replaced legal tender? Will they exist alongside? What is your prediction? Where will we be in 10 years? And what will those guys discuss that will be here in 10 years? And how would you look back on what we've been discussing today? Maybe Michael first, and then Stan. Short statements, gentlemen, please, because we're already out of time.
Okay, so I'll try to do it short. As I mentioned before, the future is already here, so it's just not well distributed. I think that we will see digital currencies being used for microtransactions on the internet in a huge scale. I also think that we will see that we have settlements in different banks run much faster in networks similar to Ripple, something like that, perhaps Ripple even. What will it be discussing in 10 years from now? I think still they will be discussing how to keep identity safe for people. I think that's one of the hard things.
So she said it, that we're waiting for compliance, we're waiting for regulations from the SEC, from Congress, and we're going to see massive changes once that happens. Moving on to Bitcoin Magazine says, breaking: Louisiana State Government now accepts Bitcoin as payment. Here you go, folks. One small step, but it's taking shape. Louisiana set to accept Bitcoin. Mr. Mann here. This is how Ripple is taking over Australia's payment systems through integrations into Apple Pay and Google Pay for cross-border payments, along with the Reserve Bank of Australia, backing Novati's stablecoin known as CBDC-backed stablecoin. So again, another not happening in the U.S. yet, again, due to regulations, but this stuff will be happening soon, as soon as regulation takes shape. And some say that could be by the end of this year. Chad Steingraber says the RLUSD, the Ripple USD, is launching soon. Trillions on chain coming to the XRP ledger. Ripple USD is purpose-built for payments, designed to maintain a constant value of $1. It's fully backed by a segregated reserve of cash and cash equivalents and is redeemable 1-to-1 for US dollars. RLUSD is issued on the XRP ledger and Ethereum blockchains. That is huge. It's going to be huge. Hopefully that comes out very soon. We're hearing by the end of September. We'll see what happens. But I appreciate you guys jumping on, and we will see you on the flippity flip.